Scalp micropigmentation. Obviously, a lot of people have been considering scalp micropigmentation in India. Now, what we have experienced, there's not much awareness about scalp micropigmentation. There are a lot of mistakes, a lot of dermats, or a lot of technicians are doing. I'm just going to make you go through some points. These are basically common mistakes that you should avoid before going ahead with the scalp micropigmentation. So let's get started. The first point would be, usually when you do a scalp micropigmentation, it takes around 3 sessions. We've come across some clients which are basically वो rectify करने आते हैं. बहुत बार क्या होता है, they come to us and when we see that, we ask them that where did you do this and कितने time में session में हुआ, so they answer that it was just done in probably 3-4 hours. So firstly, if your scalp micropigmentation, if any technician tells you that it will be done in 2-3 hours, it's completely wrong. वो टेक्निकली इम्पॉसिबल है. जब अगर आपका बहुत छोटा एरिया हो तो और बात है, बट जनरली टू डू द टॉप एरिया अगर 2-3 घंटे में कोई कहता है कि मैं ख़त्म कर दूंगा, आई टेल यू व्हाट एग्जैक्टली हैपेंस. नाउ व्हेन वी प्लान द SMP, उसको 3 भाग में डिवाइड करते हैं. फर्स्ट सेशन बेसिकली वी क्रिएट टाइनी डॉट्स, फिर वो 1 वीक बाद या 1 महीने बाद बेसिकली हम लोग और डॉट्स ऐड कर देते हैं, और थर्ड सेक्शन में वी इंक्रीज द डेंसिटी इवन मोर. Why technically it's not right to finish the entire SMP in 2 to 3 hours, I'll explain. The right thing to do is, let's say if I'm doing this particular area, first session we add certain dots. These are the dots that we create in first session. First session में हमने ये dots create किए हैं. Now why we do this is basically first session में हम density काफ़ी low रखते हैं, just to understand कि अगर scalp को कुछ redness आ रहा है या कुछ issue आ रहा है या ink हम dark करना चाहते हैं, light करना चाहते हैं, how much ink can the scalp absorb, lot of technical things. So we keep the density low, we create certain dots. So now what we do is the second session again we increase the density, और जो 2 dots create किए थे उसके बीच में वापस dots create करते हैं. द सेकेंड सेक्शन जहां पे पहले जो डेंसिटी था उससे और ज्यादा डेंसिटी ऐड कर दी है, 2 डॉट्स के बीच में और एक डॉट डाल दिया है. सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज इट्स वेरी ग्रेजुअल. जो ट्रांजिशन होता है वो ग्रेजुअल होता है, कभी भी ओवरडू नहीं करते हैं. दैट इज नॉट द राइट थिंग टू डू. थर्ड सेशन में फिर हम लोग और डेंसिटी ऐड कर देते हैं डिपेंडिंग ऑन द डिस्कशन. Assuming scalp micropigmentation is a substitute for hair fibers. Well, that is not the case. जब आप hair fibers डालते हो वो पूरा एरिया ब्लैक हो जाता है. So just for example, this area, if you see this entire area, there is basically no skin showing. ये पूरा ब्लैक हो गया है क्योंकि इतना सारा फाइबर डाला हुआ है. Whereas when you do scalp micropigmentation, उसका scalp का visibility तो भी थोड़ा रहेगा, उसका visibility कम हो जाएगा, लेकिन फिर भी the scalp will show to an extent. So to compare it, you can see this image. In this we have already done the scalp micropigmentation, but it obviously looks like follicles and it's not like a black block. So if you're expecting it to be completely black, well in that case उसको tattoo करना पड़ेगा, और tattoo करने के बाद obviously it's not going to look good when it starts fading. So we really don't advise that. We are also against using hair fibers on a regular basis because research has proved that आप रोज अगर फाइबर डालते हो तो वो धीरे धीरे करके आपके एग्जिस्टिंग हेयर फॉलिकल्स भी जो है, और यू स्टार्ट लूजिंग दैट एग्जिस्टिंग हेयर एज वेल. So in such cases, please don't use hair fibers on a regular basis. At times when you're occasionally going out, it's fine. But on a regular basis, definitely don't use it. Scalp micropigmentation is a good option, but don't expect it to be completely like hair fibers, क्योंकि hair fibers पूरा scalp को cover कर देता है, और SMP में वो scalp visibility को कम कर देता है. So you need to understand the difference between this and this. Having it too dense. A lot of people make this mistake that they want it too dense. Now what happens is जब वो करते हैं it looks good, but over a period of time you need to understand that the dots also spread and then it will look very patchy. So please understand that SMP should not be very dense, because over a period of time when it starts fading, it's going to look like a tattoo on the head, and that entire patch will look quite unusual. So if you can see in the image, this is a case that had come to us. Basically, density was very high in terms of scalp micropigmentation, so the area had gone very dark. These cases, we always suggest that go gradual. That's why we break it up into multiple sessions, so that you keep the density low, then you increase a little more, keep it very visual. Now then, if you feel that you want to increase the density, of course the third session you will have to do, but you can keep it more visual. But try not going for that complete dense look, because it will look artificial. The top of the head will look black and the sides and the back will start looking thin. Having a very solid hairline. Now what I mean is, a lot of people they basically get a very solid hairline. Now that looks extremely unnatural. आपका hairline कभी भी solid नहीं होता है. So if you see in this case, this area is still quite solid according to us. It should be very gradual. The needle which has been used is very thick. Now technically how it works is, whenever you're working on the hairline area, there are different sizes of needles. So the hairline area, very thin needles are supposed to be used compared to the other areas. So other areas may usually the needles are used 3 RL, but in the front area 1 RL is the needle that has to be used. So just make sure when you're discussing it with your SMP technician, just tell them to use a 1 RL needle in the front hairline area, because it has to be very gradual. वो जो transition है front hairline का, वो बहुत ही ग्रेजुअल होना चाहिए. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर ये हेयरलाइन है तो इसके डॉट्स पहले तो बहुत पतले रहेंगे, उसके बाद वो डॉट्स मोटे होने लगेंगे. द फर्स्ट हाफ एन इंच प्रॉबेबली could be very thin dots and very scattered. बेसिकली डेंसिटी कम होना चाहिए, काफ़ी कम थिन डॉट्स होने चाहिए. उसके बाद ग्रेजुअली वो डेंसिटी बढ़ना चाहिए, ताकि वो हेयरलाइन बहुत ग्रेजुअल लगे और ऐसा सॉलिड हेयरलाइन नहीं आए. सो प्लीज़ मेक श्योर दैट सॉलिड हेयरलाइन नहीं करे. इट लुक्स रियली बैड व्हेन इट ग्रोज आउट एंड व्हेन इट फेड्स. Changing the hairline shape. Now what happens is, when your hairline starts receding, आपको लगता है कि वो basically बहुत deep जो है उसका depth कम कर लेते हैं SMP के द्वारा. Now this is a very bad idea. Ideally what we suggest is, please maintain your natural hairline shape. आपका जो natural hairline shape है वो ही maintain करिए. Try करिए कि वो corners भरने के लिए मत जाइए, क्योंकि SMP हमेशा तभी अच्छा लगता है जब उसमें थोड़े बाल हो और वो डेंसिटी आप इंप्रूव कर रहे हो. लेकिन अगर आप हेयरलाइन शेप चेंज करने की कोशिश करते हो, एट सम पॉइंट इट लुक्स आर्टिफिशियल. आई जस्ट गिव यू एन एग्जांपल. हिज शेप इज दिस, बट इफ वी ट्राई टू चेंज द हेयरलाइन शेप, एंड लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स आपका एक्सपेक्टेशन रहता है कि मैं ये गैप जो है, आप बेसिकली ये शेप बेसिकली आपका बहुत बार ऐसे रिक्वेस्ट आते हैं जहाँ पे हेयरलाइन का शेप इतना डीप नहीं चाहिए और उसको थोड़ा कम डीप रखते हैं. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल लाइक दिस. वी डू नॉट एडवाइज दिस एट ऑल. ऑलवेज कीप अ डीपर रिसीडिंग हेयरलाइन. इट ऑलवेज लुक्स नेचुरल. One of the common mistakes I think most technicians do is using the regular tattoo ink. We always suggest these carbon-based inks. So these are inks. ये जो inks होते हैं, they are meant for scalp micropigmentation. There are certain inks which are manufactured especially for SMP, especially for the scalp, and these are not the regular tattoo inks. जो regular tattoo inks होते हैं, oxide-based होते हैं, और usually the SMP inks are usually carbon based, so these are very safe for the scalp, and obviously the results are way better. Of course they are a little expensive, but I don't think you should cut down on the cost, because the moment you cut down on the cost with the technician, they may cut down on the quality of the ink. So make sure that they use the carbon based ink only for the scalp. So usually what we use, it's called the Scalp Elite. There are a lot of these brands which are manufactured in the US. These are specially for SMP. These are called Scalp Elite, Scalp Pro. These are very reputed brands. So I think अगर आप ink use करते हो तो make sure आप SMP वाला ink ही use करिए. Doing hair strokes. Hair strokes meaning these are not dots. Usually in SMP there are these dots, but hair strokes meaning these lines. So in SMP there are these dots and hair strokes are basically these lines. A lot of times some technicians or sometimes even the patient or the client says that they want to create those hair-like lines on the scalp so that it actually looks like hair. Now this is a very bad idea. You should never get these hair strokes ever. In SMP, even if you have length, it's always advisable to do these dots, but definitely not lines like these. Reason, once it fades off or when you shave off your hair or you trim it too short, it will not look natural at all because it will just see solid lines and it will look very artificial. So anybody who suggests, or even sometimes you'll see in the internet and creating these hair strokes, it's a big no. Please don't do this. It is going to look very artificial. Also when it wears off, वो बहुत ही खराब लगने वाला है. So stay away from these. Using these very premium professional SMP pens. So there are specialized tattoo pens which are meant for SMP. So we always suggest that make sure that your technician is using the right pen. Usually the ones which are manufactured in the US and Germany, they are very popular. So I think those pens, if used, you get better results. Secondly, also in terms of the needle, there is variation in needles as well. अगर वो dots छोटे होते हैं, you got to take 1 RL. If अगर dots बड़े होते हैं, तो take 3 RL. So basically, you got to play mix and match according to the requirement, according to the density. So just make sure that your technician is using the professional pen which are made in the US, Germany, not using the local ones. Sometimes the results are not as good, unfortunately. And so make sure that it doesn't go wrong because you got to do the laser treatment to remove it. So just make sure that don't really get it done from a regular person, get it done from a trained person and make an informed decision. You are more informed and take the right decision. Thank you so much and please subscribe to American Hairline. We get motivated. Thank you so much.